as an example, I think we're all familiar with how much, obviously we
Can
spend
can
from
you name
China.
any other country that he's been able to achieve a long-term trade deal with, or is it just China?
I'm pretty sure we have multiple with like India, Vietnam,
There's been no official deal
Middle
made.
East. Oh, okay. Has there been an official deal with China?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, well, my point is that the idea of tariffs is that money is leaving our country, and then it's not coming in as frequently as it's leaving, right? So obviously, in the short run, you're correct. Yes, the American person is going to pay that tariff. The idea is that we start implementing jobs here in America that people aren't getting at, and I hear this a lot that people don't want to work the jobs
So you
that
just want more American jobs?
yeah, more American jobs that leads to more circulation of U.S. currency, which obviously, yes, you do have to pay more for things like clothing that you
I
might
have a
be getting
question. Do
from
you think
China
that
in the short
reducing the
run.
after-tax income for 80% of Americans and like deporting millions of people in the American labor force, which will make our economy less productive, will be conducive towards more American jobs? I mean,
Well,
we're
and you're
actually
correct in
losing
the fact
jobs
that
so far in
yes,
Donald Trump's administration. The unemployment rate is going up, and the macroeconomic trends are not conducive towards galvanizing our industries. I mean, we've seen a stagnation in investment in American industries. So like overall, I'd say that the Trump administration has proved to be pretty bad for like American industries, American manufacturing, and the economy.
so you mentioned earlier on in this with some people that you debated about what was it, $100 billion that immigrants was it specifically illegal immigrants or immigrants?
Undocumented immigrants pay $100 billion per year in taxes.
By undocumented, is that illegal immigrants?
So when you say illegal immigrant, I say undocumented immigrant.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's just the term thing. I got you. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I just think that
undocumented.
referring to undocumented immigrants as undocumented compared to illegal is a little bit less dehumanizing.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I think that undocumented is a better term for that. Anyway, so you said that $100 billion in taxes were paid by undocumented immigrants.
Right.
Okay, so if they were documented, out of that percentage of undocumented immigrants, how much would they be paying on average? Like, or actually, a better question is, how much are we actually losing out though? How much of that money is under the table, as in income tax is not taxed because they're being paid in cash? Obviously, when they go and spend it, yes, that money is taxed.
So are
Obviously,
you
they're gonna
asking
pay.
like what revenue are you losing out on via undocumented immigrants that get paid under the
Yeah,
table?
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know how we'd know that if they're getting paid under the table. We wouldn't know that. The
Exactly,
certification rule.
and that's another point to me. Yes, obviously, undocumented immigrants are going to be spending within inside the place they are. So America, they're going to pay taxes at the grocery store. They're going to pay taxes on clothes and other things
Did
like
you
that.
did you know that that's just like one more reason to support mass amnesty? Because I could accept that undocumented immigrants are more likely to accept wages under the table compared to natural U.S. born citizens. But the only reason why they're more likely to accept wages under the table is because when undocumented immigrants don't and file as a W-2 employee and pay taxes through an ITIN, they can't file for a return at the end of the year. So, I mean, if we were, instead of doing a mass deportation, offering undocumented immigrants mass amnesty, all right, without a single change in the material conditions of these laborers, it is a case that they'll go from paying $100 billion per year in over-the-table taxes to more than $100 billion per year in over-the-table taxes, just because they'd be more incentivized to work over the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great, maybe a different solution than mass deportation.
It's a better
But the
solution
issue,
because I don't actually even see mass
well,
deportation
but
as a
hold on
solution
though.
at all. I
My
think it only
issue,
creates more
with
issues
this
than it
being,
solves.
I just let me get some points out there for you. Another issue I have with that is, yes, obviously mass deportation. If there's a better avenue, let's take that. But the issue I have is that we still have so many millions of Americans that are unemployed or now collecting unemployed benefits, unemployed from various reasons. We have so many homeless right now, and so why do we allow people come across the border and be paid under the table when these people that are on the streets that could be working, genuinely working, they pay their taxes, revenue back into the country, and they're working, they're making money, they're off the streets, they're living better. Like, to me, it's like, let's put the American people first, and then let's worry about maybe making better avenues for immigration to happen. Let's make a secure border.
So
But
I just want to clarify, what is your critique here? Because you're saying that like there's like millions of unemployed Americans that could work. Well, A, there's 8 million open job opportunities. B, when undocumented immigrants work as they do and account for millions of people in the labor force, pay taxes and grow our GDP by $300 billion per year, that only makes our economy more productive and makes it so employers can offer more jobs, okay? But when we deport them all, we strengthen our industries, and then we pass a BBB in which taxes you more the less you make. Like, obviously, lower income Americans are going to be disproportionately disproportionately disenfranchised, and it's going to be even harder for homeless or Americans or unemployed Americans to get a job in the first place, right? So that's why I say that mass deportation places America last, because it fulfills every single thing you just said and which is required to fix in order to put America first, right?
I just feel like you're kind of overlooking the fact that there's tons of Americans that could be utilizing the jobs that undocumented immigrants are using currently.
Undocumented immigrants create more jobs. What do you think happens?
No. Yes, I apologize. I disagree with that.
Wait, if we fired 50% of all workers in America right now, would there be overall more job opportunities or less job opportunities?
I think there would end up being more job opportunities for Americans.
And I want an answer to my question. If we fired, no, you didn't. If we fired 50% of the labor force in this country right now, would that lead to more job opportunities or less job opportunities?
Less job opportunities. Let me explain.
Okay. So you're obviously right. When we cut, I just want to explain why your answer is what it is and why it's right. Is because when we forcefully cut millions of people out of the labor force. Okay, when we forcefully remove them, well, then all of a sudden these manufacturers, operate at lower levels of capacity, so they're making less goods that they could turn around and sell.
But you said that
they're less efficient and less productive.
America.
And then C, when individuals are in this country without jobs, they're not getting paid, so they can't turn around and spend their money on American goods, which makes the economy weaker. Like, I think it's just like a tale as old as time, that when we have a more productive economy, when we're producing more goods, A, that's going to require more laborers, and B, this is going to lead to increased GDP growth, and with increased GDP growth comes an increase in job opportunities. And this is why mass deportation will cut job opportunities, because you're reducing GDP growth by $300 billion per year, and you're forcefully cooking out millions of laborers that are producing the goods that are then turned around and sold, which scales companies, which then creates more job opportunities.
See, it sounds like to me that, like, I just saw an interesting comment that was, undocumented immigrants are willing to work for $10 an hour. And to me, that seems like we're taking advantage of a workforce, of people that are easily being manipulated into working for much less than what they should be deserved for. And I think that's a crazy stance to say, yeah, let's let all these people come into our country and work in, hard labor jobs for $10 an hour, where they are barely going to be able to live a normal life because all they can do is work and all they can do is barely afford to live week to week. Rather than, I'm not saying that where they're from is any better, but I'm just saying that you could legally make. Yeah, absolutely.
Why are undocumented immigrants paid less on average compared to citizens?
Because we allow it to be under the table, and under the table allows wages to be different for them because it's not documented, it's not regulated.
Paying people under the table, A, happens for all demographics, and B, it is a case that it's not allowed because it's illegal. So what gives there to be a reason that undocumented immigrants are paid less on average compared to citizens? Because that's not it.
I believe that that's it. If you would like to give me a reason.
When we look at over-the-table wages, they're lower on average. So that you cannot say that undocumented immigrants get paid lower on average because they work under the table. When we look at over-the-table wages, they're lower on average. So that's not it at all.
Yes,
so why do they get paid lower on average over-the-table wages compared to natural U.S.-born citizens?
Okay, so for an example, if the majority of immigrants are coming into our country and they're working as in factory jobs, for an example, obviously they're going to be making on average less than the American people, the American college student.
I'm talking about in the same job with the same qualifications, undocumented immigrants get paid less. Why is that?
Well, if that is true, then it shouldn't be true. It is
true, and I agree it shouldn't be true. But the question is, why is it true? Okay, and the answer to this question is incredibly relevant.
I guess you got me there, but I don't see your point because I already said.
I'll demonstrate the point. I'll demonstrate the point to you. Yeah. Okay. So undocumented immigrants get paid less on average, and companies are more likely to take advantage of them because they have less bargaining power than citizens. The reason they have less bargaining power than citizens is because they don't have permanent residency or citizenship. They're undocumented immigrants. They could be exploited by their workers, and they have less bargaining power because they're under this threat of deportation. They don't know if they're going to have long-term survivability in the economy, as well as about 1 billion other things, okay? Right? And with more bargaining power comes higher wages. This is why unions exist. Unions exist to give employees more bargaining power so they could take home better benefits and higher wages. In other words, Basically, if we could give undocumented immigrants more bargaining power in the American economy, okay, they'll no longer be at a higher likelihood to get exploited compared to citizens. And you said that was an issue, so let's resolve the issue by offering them a pathway to residency or citizenship, so then they have the same amount of bargaining power as residents or citizens because they are residents or citizens. And then all of a sudden, the problem that you're pointed out is evaporated out of thin air. Poof, it's gone. They get the same wages on average because they have the same bargaining power on average, but yet they're still contributing to the overall tax pool and the growth of our GDP.
So I just feel like so is your solution, right? So do you think that there should be any Do you think that there should be any border regulation at all?
Yeah, I think that we should have border regulation, but that border regulation would just merely be rejecting entry to individuals with prior violent offenses. And under other circumstances, I think that there should be expedited quick paths to residency or citizenship for anybody that wants it, because as far as I'm concerned, it only makes our country better. So now I would like to point out that you are pivoting. The reason why I'm accusing you of pivoting is because you were able to... Okay. You interrupt me so you could continue your pivot. Got it.
No, okay, because I have nothing to pivot on because I still don't understand. You and I haven't come to any sort of agreement on. We're kind of just talking about our side of the story here.
Right.
My question to you is you want to look for avenues to fast track people to get into the country. I can get
before you pivot. The last thing I want to address what we just discussed is you were able to point out two issues with undocumented immigrants. The first issue was that they're more likely to get paid under the table, so they're more likely to not pay taxes. And the second issue is that they're more likely to accept lower wages, which is exploitative. Okay, those are your two issues, right?
Yes, absolutely. And you missed the third issue, that it takes away from the fact that American people could be working the jobs that these undocumented immigrants are working.
They could be there could be Americans working the jobs as well.
I'm not saying that all Americans are going to go and work
you know
those
that
jobs.
we could? So you want to fix all three of these issues, right?
I would love to. Yeah.
Mass amnesty fixes all three of these issues.
So you threw out a big word there. I apologize. I'm not as smart as you. And what is that?
Offering them pathways to residency or citizenship fixes all three of these issues. It fixes the first issue.
That doesn't fix the idea that we're going to put undocumented immigrants ahead of American people struggling.
Wait, no, they would be American people. Listen, I'll tell you the way it fixes the three issues. The way it fixes the first issue.
We're going to throw away the already American people and replace them with undocumented immigrants.
God, now you're getting into replacement theory. God, you're such a fucking incel. Jesus Christ. No, nobody's being replaced. Wait, do you think that Americans are just being thrown away and replaced when you and your wife have a kid? No, they're being added to. And this whole time you've been talking to me as if you care about the economy. What would the economic implications of mass amnesty be? Well, they go from adding $300 billion per year to the American GDP to more because they'll get higher wages. And they'll be eligible for more jobs. And they'll be eligible for loans so they could go out and buy more expensive things. So they'll go from adding $300 billion per year to the American GDP to more than that. Now, what about the taxes? Well, we agreed they're less likely to get paid over the table because they don't have the ability to file for a tax return. So they'll go from paying $100 billion per year in taxes to more than $100 billion per year in taxes because they're being offered a pathway to residency or citizenship. Now, the third issue said, well, why are we circumnavigating? We're giving jobs to non-citizens compared to giving them to citizens. Oh, they're offered a pathway to citizenship. They will be citizens. So look at that. Not only does mass amnesty fix all three of the issues you pointed out, but it actually goes from just fixing them to actively making the economy better.
Okay, so can we pivot to a new topic quickly?
No, because I want you to tell me why I'm wrong.
I've already kind of explained to you. I just believe the fact that, okay, well, you said for once that you think that we should create avenues for a fast-tracked way of citizenship.
I want you to tell me why I'm wrong about mass amnesty fixing your three issues and actually making it better.
I think that it possibly can work. I just don't see how you're going to take 3% of the American population illegally immigrated into the United States under Joe Biden, correct? It might have been more, but I believe I saw 3%. It was like 10 million people came in undocumented.
I don't know. I accept whatever number. I don't know. I hear 7
so
million,
we'll just
10
go
million,
with 10
20
million
million. Okay,
people
yeah, whatever.
into the country. And like, it's just 10 million jobs that these people are primarily working. And it's just it's 10 million jobs that I think American people could get behind and work. But the reason that they're not working is because they're gonna So I live in an area where there's a lot of stone quarries, and primarily.
Thank you for not
stone-
responding to anything I said. I really appreciate it, man.
Well, I'm not trying to not respond. I'm trying to give you my point of view, which then responds to it. I'm just.
All right. Well, okay. So let's hear your point of view and how it responds and debunks my claim that mass amnesty takes care of all three of the issues you pointed out and actually makes our country better.
Okay, so for an example, yes, after mass amnesty, however you say it, implement, correct? Yes, they would be Americans, they would be working, and it would boost GDP. I get that. My point is they're not currently, that hasn't currently happened, right? So they're still undocumented immigrants. You're talking future, I'm talking present. They're still undocumented immigrants, correct?
Wait, so I just want to clarify. You came up here to complain, not to talk about solutions.
No, I actually came up here to ask you about an abortion question.
No. I can't
scared
believe what you just
too.
said. So you said, I'm talking about the future. You're talking about, right? So you came up here to complain, not to talk about solutions.
No, not at all. I came to talk to you about a couple things. I did want to move into economics, and I would like to ask you.
Can you agree that if you don't want to debate my solution, then you just came up here to complain?
No, I'm currently trying to debate your solution.
Okay, then do it.
Okay, so no, I don't think mass. How do you say it?
Amnesty.
Amnesty. Okay, no, I don't think that's the correct solution currently. I think possibly in the future, but currently, no. I think that the solution is yes, we need to make a pathway to fast track immigration, allowing it to be a fast tracked way of citizenship. Yes, that's great, but that takes away for the people that would then come in and take that avenue. We still need to do something about the 10 million people that fled into our country illegally. I think that is a problem. I think that
amnesty is doing something about it.
Because it undermines the opportunity that American people could be working these factory jobs or these other
They
jobs.
would be American people working the factory jobs.
So what about the American people that are currently not working because these people?
What about the people that are American right
They're
now?
being paid less
Will
because
they
they
be?
can
Well,
be paid
no,
less.
sir. The American people that are American right now, will they be benefited because we'll go from having no extra GDP growth from mass deportation to close to $500 billion per year by mass amnesty? Will the average American benefit from an additional $500 billion added to the GDP per year for free? Will the average American benefit from that? I think so. Will the average American benefit from no additional government revenue because you've deported the taxpayers into an additional $100 billion to $200 billion per year because you not only allow them to continue to be taxpayers, but you make them citizens so they're more likely to accept higher wages and pay taxes over the table? Will the average American benefit from that?
So
okay, and if you want to say no, they wouldn't benefit from the additional GDP growth and additional government revenue. Well, then you're just saying that the average American doesn't benefit from a better economy, and at that point, you sound crazy, and you're contradicting everything you've said up until this point because you've only been talking about what you think will make the economy better, so we could benefit the average American.
I do know that this is a tactic in debate is to talk over the other person. I would appreciate if you and I could actually just speak. Okay. So you've done a lot of speaking. I don't think you and I are going to come to an agreement about immigration. I think that you and I could move the topic. And I just have an interesting question about abortion, and it goes back to the prenatal scannings. Are you familiar with that at all?
Bro, I'm not letting you pivot. I'm sorry. The reason I'm not letting you pivot...
I think it's because that you don't want to hear what I have to say because it's an actually interesting point, and I would just like other people to hear it.
Cute, but not true, okay? I'm not refusing to allow you to pivot because I'm scared of what you have to say. If I was scared of what Trump supporters had to say, maybe I wouldn't do debates with anybody who's willing for 4 hours every single day.
I think you're afraid to lose, and I think that's why you're ducking my question.
God, okay. If I was afraid to lose, why did I even start my stream?
Because most of the people come here and talk to you to have no clue at all what they're talking about.
And how do I know you're any smarter than they are?
You don't know. Exactly.
So then why? So then you're basically saying I have no reason to be more afraid to lose in a debate with you than anybody else.
Well, I think that my opening question rose concerns about you.
You asked a question about prenatal scans. What?
Yes, and you wouldn't even let me go into about it.
No, that's not true. We had a conversation and it naturally flowed into immigration. And I think you're actually the one that brought undocumented immigrants up.
I did because you asked me something else and I thought maybe you didn't want to talk about it. So I brought up the other part of
God, yeah. I'm so scared of you because of something you brought up.
Hey, listen, I'm not saying you're scared. I mean, yes, I'm trying to, incentivize you.
Did he get banned or some shit? He got banned. I guess. I don't know. Yo, TikTok banned him. Dude, honestly, TikTok's been banning a lot of my guests recently, but then just not banning me at all. Crazy shit. Brooke, thank you for the $20 over on YouTube Super Chat. Brooke says, Dean, you have supporters that see your strategy, diplomacy, and trajectory. Keep going, but don't forget to be 20 and have fun. You know, I have fun. Don't you worry about me, Brooke. I have fun. I appreciate you for the $20 Super Chat, Brooke. That is incredibly kind of you. What is going on, Michael? Do you support Trump? As well as Howard, thank you so much for the $40 Super Chat over on YouTube, saying mass amnesty worked when President Ronald Reagan passed it. Dude, I think that mass amnesty is awesome. Let's get 400 W's in the chat for Howard, by the way. Honestly, like, also mass amnesty and like my view on immigration, it's like pretty far left. Like, it's actually rejected by like a lot of like more conventional Democrats or liberals. Like, I bet there's like liberals watching right now that are like, that's a little bit radical for me. Well, I'm trying to de-radicalize the stance to everybody because it's just objectively true. Everybody should believe that mass amnesty is a good thing for the reasons that I gave. It's just great. It's just great all around. It's great. Michael, what's up? Do you support Trump?
So technically, no. However, I do have a lot of experience arguing both sides of these and would like to give.
I'm sorry. I do not play devil's advocate with people on the live. I do genuinely try to talk to Trump supporters. But you know what? The day we run out of Trump supporters, I'll let you run devil's advocate, okay? All right? I'll let you do it. The day we run out of real Trump supporters, I'll let you do it. What's up, Brutus fan? How old are you?
17.
I don't even believe that you're 17. I'm thinking like 14 max. Let's go to move on to the next guest. You guys, if you're on that queue, make sure that means that you do indeed support Donald J. Trump, everybody. We're going to go to get that next guest, Mr. Scott, up in the box as we speak. Speakity speak. Here we go. Everyone just going to give us a minute. As well as Leggy Time. Thank you for the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat. Saying, Dean, I told you about Adriana Smith a month ago, and you brushed it off. I even made a channel in the Discord hobbies called The Danger of Pro-Life. And now you're talking about it. Now more people are. I mean, I don't think that it finished the donation there. I'd like to clarify. I'd like to explain this earlier. I am always thinking about the billion things going on in America and the Trump administration. And there is new things happening every single day. Like recently, it's been like 5 to 10. And I think what that means is that sometimes I could forget to talk about issues that are incredibly important, that I should be talking about, because I'm thinking about a billion things at once. And for that reason, I actually really appreciate you, as well as the other individuals in the Discord, of bringing up something that is incredibly important to basically remind me by saying, Dean, you have to put some focus on this. This is really important. It's a bad thing that you're not. I actually appreciate you for that. I really appreciate you for that. Thank you so much once again. But thank you for voicing how you feel, and thank you for the $10 super chat. What's going on, Scott? You Maga?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
I sure can, man. Real quick before...
This is my first time doing this. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure everything was cool.
Awesome. Yeah, real quick before we hop into a debate. Let's see here. Jax, thank you for the $10 over at Venmo, saying thanks for all that you do. Thank you for the donation, man. Rosemary with the $10 says, like you're having a bad day with the guests. It's been all right, 50-50. Thank you for the $10, Rosemary. As well as Haley, thank you so much for the $20 over on Venmo, saying thank you for not letting the right use the 13 Marines for their agenda. Yeah, bro, dude. Oh my God. The right sucks for the military. The right sucks for veterans. And it's all political propaganda that they're somehow better. As well as Mary, thank you so much for the $10 over on Venmo. I appreciate you so much for the love. Jess with the $5 and Haley with the $5. You guys are the best. I haven't gotten around to the PayPal donations, but I'll let you start your argument off, so feel free to take it away.
Why do I support Trump?
Yep.
I don't know. Where do I start? I mean, there's a lot why I support Trump. I just believe that the Democrats and the liberals are basically more socialist, leads to communism. That may be a sensationalizing of it basically, but the policies I don't really support. They're not conservative enough for me. I think
Scott,
a lot of their policies are eroding basically the fabric of America.
I have a question, Scott.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is socialism? Can you define that silly little word for us?
Socialism is basically it's God. Yeah. So I'm freezing up. Yeah, you kind of got me.
Scott,
but I understand where you come from.
Scott,
Hold on a second.
If I said that I don't like you because you are ever so increasingly getting closer to being the glabagloop, would that make any sense at all?
The globagloop?
The glabagloop. If I said I don't like you because you're getting closer to being quite the glabagloop, would that make any sense to you whatsoever?
No.
No. Not now. That wouldn't make any sense to you because I have no fucking clue what a glabagloop is. You have no fucking clue what I think a glabagloop is. So I don't. Obviously, what I'm saying is
I understand what socialism is. I understand what you. I understand what you're saying.
Analogy
I'm sorry
is,
that it froze up. That
you're like you don't know what.
Okay, but
like Democrats because they're getting closer to socialism, but then you can't define.
Hold on a sec. Hold on a second. I concede. I froze up a little. I don't debate a lot. I understand that it's a governmental system. I understand that it's more like an even Steven kind of system, and capitalism is more like towards the individual. Like
you're still not defining it at all.
Well, what do you want? What do you want me to tell you? Like I'm not the professor.
Okay.
You wanted the ordinary guy that you could debate. Okay. I'm kind of an ordinary guy. I'm not the scholar. I wasn't the brightest student. I understand that it's like a political economic theory, okay, but
I have an idea. I have
the textbook definition. I don't know exactly how to give it to you. I know that it has to do a lot with like even distribution, stuff like that.
Actually, no. So socialism and communism, maybe a little bit in a couple, but anyways, socialism specifically. We'll start off with socialism. Has nothing to do with the redistribution of wealth or the even distribution of wealth. Socialism is not a mode of wealth redistribution, but rather a mode of ownership of property, right? So under socialism, right, you do not have the privatized ownership of the means of production. They're going to be owned by the workers in which operate the means of production. And in a nutshell,
kind of like regulated by the community.
Socialism is going to be democracy in the workplace. Now, okay, you told us that Democrats are ever growing closer to socialism. Can you name one Democratic policy that Biden passed, Biden liked, Kamala Harris ran on, the current DNC props up, that's socialist?
Healthcare.
Do you mean socialized healthcare? Healthcare for everybody?
Yeah, healthcare.
Okay, so just because the word socialized sounds a lot like the word socialist does not mean that they have anything to do with one another. Socialized healthcare is just free healthcare for everybody. But giving everybody,
it's not free.
Okay, yeah, because you pay for it when you pay taxes. I get it. I'm going to say it anyways. Free healthcare for everybody. But free
You
healthcare,
can say it. It doesn't make it free. You can say it, but it's not free. You're taxing people who don't necessarily use it.
Fine. Okay, I'll be specific. Mr. Scott. Socialized healthcare is just healthcare for everybody paid for by taxes. Okay, but healthcare for everybody paid for by taxes has.
But you're mandating that everybody pays for it.
Okay, and Donald Trump's mandating that you pay for $100 billion per year industrial military complexes. He's a fucking communist, right? Whoa.
Look, there's certain things in the society
God.
What?
God.
What?
So just to make it clear, right, our government always mandates that we pay for things, and they decide what we pay for via Congress and the legislation they pass. That's because they have the power of the purse, and we vote the representatives into Congress. So in other words, if you just want to say whatever our congressmen and women decide to spend money on, that's them forcing us to spend our money on shit, and that's socialism. We're going to dictate who's more or less socialist based upon how much money they spend, because all money spent is forced under your view. This means that according to your own stance, that Donald Trump is more of a socialist than Biden or Harris because he spent twice as much as they did in his first term compared to theirs, as well as he now wants to force our government to spend an estimated $4 trillion on the BBB, which is almost twice as much as all of Biden and Harris's non-COVID related expenditure in one bill compared to what they spent in 4 years. So Donald Trump is quite the socialist under your view.
It's a fair point what you're saying, but that's not where I was coming from. I think with the military, like every single country has to defend itself. But in this country, the way it originated, healthcare was never a right. Okay, so we need munitions.
So the way in which it originated, healthcare was never a right. With the founding fathers of this country, healthcare was never a right.
Was it?
So it should never be a right. That's your argument, right?
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it should never be. You know,
then what's the implication of?
We didn't have an income
So what's
tax
the implication of what you're saying here, there, bud? Because if your argument against socialized healthcare is that, well, the founding fathers of America didn't want socialized healthcare. Okay, well, they also didn't want black people to be anything more than property. So I don't think that using what the founding fathers of America wanted as a standard to divinate what we should or shouldn't do is really that smart of an idea, man.
Well, one thing would have nothing to do with the other, because we obviously accept, all races, all religions in this country.
Oh, would you say that if we did it?
There was already an abolitionist movement back then when this country was created.
Would you say it would be bad if we did it?
We were the second country in the entire world to free slaves and have an abolitionist movement. So I'm not agreeing with what you're saying.
I have a question. Would it be bad if we did it?
It was a different time back then. That was every country, not just this country.
It was every country. So you're just telling me
it was everywhere.
That the transatlantic slave trade and impacted more countries than just America, and that individuals from Africa were not just enslaved in America, but also enslaved in Jamaica, also enslaved in South America. Good
it wasn't
job.
Limited to black folks.
That's history, man.
It was slavery all over the world.
Okay.
It wasn't just limited to African Americans.
Oh, it wasn't just limited to black people. I'm always really curious. What, like, you want to say, like, white people were enslaved in Ireland? I think that even Ireland recognizes that it wasn't chattel slavery, it was indentured servitude. And, like, I can think of an example of, like, white people being enslaved in, like, ancient Rome. Okay, but I don't know why this is relevant. And the reason why I say I don't know why this is relevant is because I kind of feel like when people make this argument, oh, slavery was in more places just like than just America, or maybe we could point towards ancient Rome 6,000 years ago and show how white people were also enslaved for a period of time. I mean, what's the implication here? Are you basically saying that we should just therefore take slavery in America less seriously? Is that the conclusion of the argument? I want to know what the conclusion of these statements are. Because you're obviously saying them for a reason. I don't even know why we're talking about
this. We were talking about healthcare, and you made the argument. Well, we also had slavery, in the beginning of the country.
Because we're talking about socialized. I'll tell you
why did we go off on this tangent?
Of course, I don't mind informing you. Right? I'll inform
You're not
you here.
informing me.
I am informing you because you made this argument. Well, it's not what the founding fathers wanted, and then I was able to point out that the founding fathers didn't want a whole lot. Right, including rights for black people. Okay, so therefore we shouldn't use the founding fathers' desires to run our country.
Well, some did, some didn't, but most were abolitionists.
If most of them were abolitionists, then how come slavery was explicitly condoned in the Constitution they made?
How come slavery was explicitly condoned?
Yeah, like most of the founding fathers that drafted the Constitution were against slavery.
Dean,
how come in the original Constitution, slavery was specifically condoned in it, and it was only in the later 1800s that we had an amendment banning it. And now you're going to say, Dean, it's a different time. Well, the difference about the time was that they thought it was okay, refuting your original claim that majority of them were abolitionists.
John Adams was an abolitionist. George Washington was not. Jefferson obviously was not. Okay, but you had plenty that were. Most countries were moving that way.
Okay, I don't even care. Listen, I don't believe that they were abolitionists, or else they wouldn't have put their signature in a document in which forced Americans, if they see an escaped slave, to return them to their captor, else face legal punishment. I don't think that a slavery abolitionist would have put their signature on that piece of paper.
Say whatever you want. I don't even know why we're talking about this, because I think right now we both agree slavery was wrong. Why are we talking about this?
Okay, well, once again, I told you, you just can't fucking track. Your original argument against socialized healthcare is that we shouldn't have it because the founding fathers didn't want it, and for the third time, the founding funders didn't want to allow it.
I was using.
Okay, now please don't interrupt me, Scott. You were interrupting me. You were interrupting me.
Go ahead.
Because I want to go back to the very first thing that you said. The very first thing that you said was that Democrats are socialists. I asked you a question you haven't been able to answer. Name one socialist policy Democrats.
I gave you one. I gave you healthcare.
Socialized healthcare is not socialist.
It is socialist because hold on. Let me explain. You're mandating that certain people who want it. You're mandating that certain people who don't want it have to pay for it. So if the younger population who doesn't usually buy into healthcare because they're already healthy, they don't think about that kind of stuff, you are mandating that they pay towards it, and they don't want it. So it's a redistribution of wealth.
Wait, so you understand that's all taxes, right?
Yeah, I understand.
So would you say that taxation?
I don't agree with a lot of the tax code either.
Wait. So I just want to clarify. Would you say that taxation as a whole is socialist?
In a sense, in lots of ways, sure.
Okay, so whoever.
Well, we didn't always have taxes, did we? On income, God. We didn't always have an income tax.
Oh, God, Jesus Christ. Okay, so if all taxation is socialist, then we could determine which party is more socialist based upon which party. Excuse me.
I didn't even say that, but I did say that.
Okay.
It's a form.
Okay.
I said
so if you think that all taxation is socialist, then we could identify which party is more socialist based upon which party wants to spend more of our tax dollars, right?
Well, I would say the Democrats do.
I just want a yes or no. Like, under your logic, we could determine which party is more socialist depending upon which party wants to spend more of our tax dollars, right?
To spend more of the tax dollars? No, because I would agree with you. I think a lot of times Republicans. I think there's.
Now you're on mute because now you're just contradicting yourself and you have no fucking clue what you're saying. So the reason why this would follow from your view is because you said that socialized healthcare is socialist because you're mandating people to spend their tax dollars on things that they don't want to. Okay, well, that doesn't just apply to socialized healthcare. That applies to everything. That applies to the military. That applies to public highways. That applies to anything that our government does. That applies to the studies done by AI PAC. Like it applies, not AI PAC. Jesus Christ, fuck AI PAC. Okay, I'm talking about anything else in our government that we spend money on. So basically, any time that our government spends money, it's socialist because some of the people that are paying through tax dollars don't want to do it. So in other words, we're just going to try to determine which party wants to spend more money, and they're therefore going to be more socialist, right?
Sorry, can you hear me? I wouldn't frame it exactly like that.
But
I see where you're going.
So if you wouldn't frame it like that, then you don't think that our government spending our tax dollars is socialist.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Of course, but that's just absurd.
Just let me explain. All right. If you're going to frame it as who wants to spend more, once people are already in Congress, all right, they're spending, baby. It's a uniparty. They're all bad. All right. I'll give it to you. But if you were going to frame it as in who actually is running on that, which party is running on?
I'm cutting you off. Here's why. You said when our government spends our tax dollars, that's socialist. Under that view, we would be able to identify which party's more socialist by how much spending they like, how much spending they want, how much spending they accept. Okay, this is like saying that when you kill an innocent person, that's murder. So under that view, we would be able to determine if person A or person 2 supports murder more based upon how many people they've murdered. Okay, imagine person 1 has murdered 10 people and person 2 has murdered 100 people. Person 2 is going to support murder more than person 1 because they've murdered more people. They're going to be a worse murderer than person 1 because they've murdered more people. So if our government spending money as socialist, this means whatever party is going to spend more money is more socialist. right, Scott? And for all the people saying that I should let him talk, if I let him talk, my brain is going to explode and my eyeballs are going to shoot out of my head.
I think you're just framing it wrong, Dean. I think you're just framing it wrong.
Tell me where I went wrong in my logic. You think that our government spending money is socialist,
I just
right?
told you. I don't even know what. I think we're beating a dead horse here because you and I are just going to disagree.
Well, then you're the fucking dead horse, Scott, because I'm just simply taking your view and trying to extrapolate the logical outcomes. Like, if you think that I'm beating a dead horse for making the most simple implication from your line of reasoning whatsoever, then you're the fucking dead horse. Like, Scott, you said that universalized. Okay, I'm not asking you for yes or no's. Unmute your mic. We're going to go yes or no. Universalized healthcare is socialist because some people are going to disagree with their government spending our tax dollars on it. Yes or no?
I don't like the way you're framing it.
That was your argument.
If it's a redistribution of wealth and you're mandating that certain people pay for something,
see, this is why I want to mute him. I want to click the button. I want to click the button to mute him. The reason why I want to click the button to mute him right now so fast, even though he just started talking, is because he said that you don't like the way I'm framing it. Sure, I just repeated your own argument. You're the one that said universalized socialized healthcare was socialist because it is the case that some people that are paying for it with their tax dollars will disagree with it. That was your argument, right?
Yes. Yes.
But you just told me when I asked you if that was your argument that you didn't like the way I was framing it. So therefore, you don't like the way you're framing it.
No. That's not exactly what was said, Dean.
The question I asked you is, do you think that socialized healthcare is socialist because some people that will be paying for it through their tax dollars will disagree with it?
Not disagree. They won't want it. Okay, but if you're going to mandate, Dean,
Scott, disagreeing with it and not wanting it is the same thing.
Dean, a lot of people disagree with certain things, okay, but they pay into it. They're by their free will, they're okay with it. All right, I disagree on paying for certain things, but I know that it's okay for everybody else, so I pay into it. Okay, but with a mandate,
then you don't disagree
with a mandate.
Then you don't fucking disagree with it. If you're okay with it, then you don't disagree with it.
Whichever. We'll disagree on the language, fine, and I'll just concede to you for whatever, Dean. But listen to me.
What the fuck?
You're framing the question wrong because you're asking.
The question was your argument.
No, it was you're framing it wrong. I don't understand why you don't see it. I really don't.
Lose my mind.
I don't understand why
I'm
you don't
lose my
see
mind.
it.
So I want to clarify. Your argument for why socialized healthcare is socialist is because it forces people to spend their money on something that they don't want to spend it on, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that was the question I asked you. I said,
well,
so
it's also a redistribution.
So once again, I'll just re-ask you the goddamn question. So you think
is it a redistribution of wealth?
No.
It's not a redistribution of wealth? Universal healthcare? Socialized healthcare? It's not a redistribution of wealth?
Well, actually, we should do further examination. What do you mean by redistribution of wealth?
You're taking money from one set of the population and you're using that population to offset the other part, right? Okay. There's money going from one part of the population to the other part of the population. And it's not just on healthcare, it's on lots of programs. But healthcare was a huge part, and it was like 20% of the economy, was it not?
Okay, so do you just disagree? Okay, so if you just I already told you that a redistribution of wealth is not socialism.
Okay.
And the only reason why this would be a redistribution of wealth is not because of socialized healthcare, but because of progressive tax rates. Wow, did you know that if we charged everybody, regardless of their income, the same amount of money in taxes, that we would still be able to have socialized healthcare without any redistribution in wealth? Meaning that a redistribution of wealth is not intrinsic, essential, or necessary to socialized healthcare? And if you're taking an issue with the redistribution of wealth of socialized healthcare or any system of benefit, you're not taking issue with the system of benefit, you're taking issue with the progressive system of taxation.
Well, that would be fine if everybody was working the same job and getting the same paycheck, but not everybody is doing that. You know, you have some people that are putting more risk into their job and their life. So you have makers and you have takers.
I will re-ask the question. I'm dead set on making the argument that I've been trying to make for 30 fucking minutes. Okay? The question is, do you disagree with socialized healthcare? Because it's forcing people to pay for things that they don't want to pay for. And that's why you think it's socialist. Also, for everybody that doesn't like the fact that I'm muting him, leave the live. I'm not going to concede to your desires. So can you please answer that question, sir?
I just answered it.
You're, was it with a yes or a no?
You muted me and something happened here. Go ahead, ask it again. You muted it and something happened here. Go ahead and ask it again.
How much should Charlie Kirk pay you to join this live?
Nothing.
No. Let me see your bank transcript right fucking now. I don't believe you.
Why?
Because there's no way that this isn't like manufactured.
I don't understand.
You're not.
Why?
You have to be following a script right now. This has to be intentional.
I'm not following the script.
Okay. The question is the reason why you disagree with socialized healthcare and the reason you think it's socialist is because it's forcing people to pay for things that they don't want to pay for.
I already said yes.
Okay, great.
And I said that's with a lot of programs and taxation in general.
Can we agree that everything that a government spends taxes on will force us to pay for it because it's our money that's being paid in the taxes, and B, some people are going to disagree with it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's for everything, not just socialized healthcare, for everything. So this means
I had already said that.
So this means every time our government spends money, it's socialist, right?
No, not necessarily.
Okay,
but I get where you're coming from.
Okay, well, so then, what's the reason why you think that socialized healthcare is socialist? Because it's not because it's forcing people to spend money on it and they disagree with it. Because if that was your reasons why you thought it was socialist, then you'd think everything is socialist, but you don't. So therefore, those are not your reasons.
It's a means of distribution.
What do you even mean by that?
Like with everything, but it is. I understand your point with the military, and I think
no. I want to go back to the question. Why do you think that socialized healthcare is socialist?
Because it's a huge chunk of government. It's just a much larger program.
So it's
just a much larger program.
Our largest program is the military. So you think the military is socialist?
No, I don't.
So then you don't think that healthcare is socialist because it's a large chunk, because the military is a larger one, and you don't think that the military is socialist. So why would socialized healthcare be socialist?
Is the military larger? I wouldn't know. I know we spend almost like 850. What do we spend? 850 billion on the military?
So that's super irrelevant. Okay. Now, please tell me why you think that socialized healthcare
you said it was larger. I just wanted to make sure.
But I want to know why you think that socialized healthcare is socialist.
Because it's 20% of the economy, Dean.
Okay.
So
is the military.
It's huge.
So is the military. But you don't think that the military is socialist. So therefore, that's not the reasons why you think that socialized healthcare is socialist. It gets to a point, Scott, where if you use 3 brain cells, you'd be able to track this conversation.
I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to figure out how to frame it. Like I don't believe that the military is socialist because I believe probably everybody wants to be protected or have some sort of form of
Does everybody
protection.
want to spend $800 billion on it? And also, no, that's not true. Communists,
No,
they don't want a
no,
military.
and
Anarcho-libertarians,
I
wait.
wouldn't
I want to clarify there that you're actually wrong. So communists don't want a military. Not at all, because they don't want a state. Only states have militaries. Anarcho-libertarians don't want a military because the military is managed by a state. They don't want a state either. Any type of anarchist, whether that's an anarcho-libertarian, an anarcho-socialist, an anarcho-capitalist, an any form of anarchy or communism, they don't want a military. So there's a lot of people that just straight up don't want a military. So you're wrong.
Interesting. Okay. I would think that most people who are citizens of a country would want that country to provide some sort of protection for them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so now you're shifting the goalposts from saying that it goes from everybody has to agree to it to most people have to agree to it. So fun fucking fact. The policymakers that would be enacting socialized healthcare would only be doing it because most people voted for them because they wanted them to enact their policy of socialized healthcare. Yeah, so if there ever came a day where we had a Democrat in office that put socialized healthcare in place, it would be because most people wanted it. So if your standard is it's not socialist, if most people want it, if socialized healthcare was ever implemented, it wouldn't be socialist because most people would want it.
Okay, so do we not have a socialized healthcare system in this country? Is that what you're saying?
Not for everybody, no.
Are we trying to emulate the healthcare system of, like, say, other countries, like European countries? Like, what
none of this matters. Because
well, I'm asking, why did we change it? What was
the reason why none of this. Wait, I'm not here to debate the efficacy of socialized healthcare with you. I'm here to debate the fact that you think it's socialist.
Okay, so you're explaining to me why it's not. But what I'm saying
because socialism is where the workers own the means of production, Scott. The means of production and who owns them has nothing to do with socialism, Scott. You're trying to call a square circle there, little bro.
So then why was it? Why would the Democrats? Why do we have Obamacare then?
What the fuck does Obamacare have to do with what I just said? What? Dude. Oh my God. Wait. No. So imagine that you told me that you voted for Trump because you don't like abortion. So then I was like, well, then why did Mr. Beast just build 5 schools in Libya? Like something completely irrelevant. That has nothing to do with what you said. Nothing to do with any type of response. No, we were talking about how you think that socialized healthcare is socialist. Then I define socialism as, well, what the textbook definition of socialism is where the workers own the means of production. And I pointed out how the workers owning the means of production have nothing to do with socialized healthcare. Then you're like, but Obamacare. What? What does Obamacare have to do with socialism?
Well, it's not exactly how it went, but okay. But I brought it up because before Obamacare, healthcare seemed much better.
I don't give a fuck. We're not here to debate the efficacy of different healthcare systems. We're here to debate right now if socialized healthcare is socialist. Okay? I want to make that clear. We are not debating the efficacy of socialized healthcare. We're debating if it's socialist.
Now. So if I concede to you that our healthcare system is not socialist.
No. You got to concede that socialized healthcare is not socialist.
I'm sorry, what did you just say? Socialized healthcare is not socialist? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's say I concede to you, socialized healthcare is not socialist.
Okay, then we go back to the original question of what socialist policy does the Democrat Party support? Because the reason that you told me that you don't support the Democrat policies is because they're socialist. So then it'd just go back to the original question.
Okay, then I'm just using the wrong language then.
Support. Okay.
So you're going to help me out here, and you're saying to me that I'm using the wrong language. So
then why do you support Trump?
Socialist. I guess it's not socialist.
Then why do you support Trump?
Well, I did want to get rid of Obamacare, I don't like the healthcare system.
Okay, well, good.
I thought it was much better before.
Okay, he's not even doing that though.
He was before.
No, he
and
wasn't.
now,
Wait, wait. Do we have Obamacare?
I'm sorry?
Do we have Obamacare?
We don't have Obamacare?
How could you hear what I say then say the opposite? I asked you if we have
I'm-
Obamacare.
I'm asking you, do we not?
We do.
Obamacare doesn't exist anymore?
It does.
Did we get rid of it?
No.
No, right. So
then Donald
we
Trump
don't.
didn't repeal the ACA before.
Well, his intent was to do it in the first term, and then that got squashed because of John McCain.
No, he just
Did it
never
not?
did it because he never had anything to replace it with. He still doesn't.
You don't need anything to replace it with. You just squash it and go back to what we had, which was no Obamacare. I liked it a lot better before.
Okay, no, the reason that Congress will not just remove and repeal the ACA. Congress won't do that. Congress will maybe only replace the ACA. Okay? I want to make that incredibly clear. That's why it
I
never got
agree
done in
with
his
you.
first term. Oh, okay. So you agree that Congress would only repeal the ACA if they had something to replace it with, and you also agree that Donald Trump has nothing to replace it with. So then you concede that Donald Trump is not getting rid of the ACA. So because you concede that Donald Trump is not getting rid of the ACA, why do you support Trump for something he's not going to do? That's like me saying that I supported Kamala Harris because she was going to give everybody $1 billion. Okay,
No,
she wasn't ever going to do it. So why would that make me support her?
I didn't think that he wasn't necessarily not going to do it.
Okay, well now
Okay.
no, yes you did. Yes you did. You just conceded that. Once again, Scott, you
No,
said
I
that
think
you
it was-
agreed
no.
you agreed that Congress would only repeal the ACA if Donald Trump had something to replace it with. Donald Trump has said he doesn't. Therefore, Donald Trump will not be able to repeal the ACA. You did concede that they will not get rid of the ACA.
I
You did
conceded
concede.
that I conceded that Congress would not. But I believe that they would be very reluctant to.
Okay,
because
so
it
then
would
Donald
probably-
Trump will not be able to get rid of the ACA. Got it.
Well, you're putting words in my mouth.
I'm
What I was
not.
going to-
I'm literally not.
what I was
I'm
going to
literally not.
continue saying,
It's
Dean,
called a
Dean,
premise by premise. It's called an argument. Premise number one: you agree and you affirm that Congress will only get rid of the ACA given they have something to replace it to. You accepted that. Premise number two: Donald Trump has nothing to replace the ACA with. Conclusion: Donald Trump will never be able to get Congress to repeal the ACA. It's not me putting words into your mouth. It is the logically entailed conclusion from what you believe in. I'm going crazy. I'm losing my shit. I'm putting words in your mouth? That's a logically entailed conclusion. Bro, this guy has like no sense of... I want to ask you a question. If you answer this question incorrectly, I'm going to kick you. Premise number one, Socrates is a man. Premise number two, all men are mortal. What is the conclusion of this two-premise syllogism?
What is the premise to what?
Premise number one, Socrates is a man.
Socrates is a man.
Premise number two, all men are mortal. What is the conclusion of this two-premise syllogism?
I didn't understand the last word you said. Two premise what?
Argument.
I don't even understand what that means. What am I supposed to conclude from it?
Yeah.
That all men are mortal? Is Socrates is mortal?
Thank you for only reading that once the chat said it. I just punished myself. I don't know. Why did I do that to myself? Why did I do that to myself? You know? Yeah, I think I need to ask that question. Like, why do I do that to myself? You know, I mean, Scott's dumb as hell. Scott's up here unable to debate at all, right? Okay, I have the power to kick him. I have the power to just remove him. I had the power 30 minutes ago to say, Scott, I'm going to choose peace and move on to the next guest. I appreciate you for your time, and I didn't. Terrible. Terrible. Why do I do that? Why do I do that? Why do I do that to myself? I don't know why I do that to myself. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Well done. Yeah. Okay. That conversation's over. Mr. Scott's going to explode my brain. Let's see here. Anthony, thank you for the $10 super chat over on YouTube 10 minutes ago, saying Goat Dean. I appreciate you for the love, Anthony. As well, Snipes with the $10 saying, Dean, thanks for not allowing people to satisfy closet modern views by justifying slavery. Yeah, that was also crazy. Thank you for the $10 Snipes. As well as CJ, thank you for the $20 super chat over on YouTube, saying, Dean, you've talked about Adriana Smith several times. You and Parker both have done so together, so the accusation of or whatever they're assuming to be true is most certainly not. There's no need to apologize. I mean, I've talked about her a few times, but I mean, I think that, her story deserves to be talked about more, I guess. But I appreciate you for the $20, CJ. Okay, everybody. All right, let me go and check out Venmo over here real quick. And honestly, guys, after I thank the rest of the donors, I'm probably gonna get off for the night. The reason why I say that, my brain is fried. My brain is shot. What I need to do is go get dinner, eat, let my brain rest. Dude, honestly, if there was like an adult alternative to Cocomelon, that sounds great right now. Just give me something to drool at, give me something to drool over. Just kind of turn the noggin off and just sit back and chill. Let's see here. Oscar, thank you for the $11 and the 11 cents on Venmo, saying, take care of yourself, Dean. Some of these guests are stressing me out. Fuck it, dude. I'm going to be 35 looking 70. It's going to be bad, Oscar. I appreciate you for the $11. Let's see here. Jess, thank you for the $5. Haley with a 5. Mary, thank you so much for the $10 over on Venmo as well. As well as Haley, I did see your earlier message. I appreciate you guys for the love. Watch ASMR. Let me just go brain rot and watch some ASMR. Oh, God. What a terrible stream. Some dancing fruits. Yeah, man. Need my goddamn dancing fruits. Maybe that is the alternative. You know what I mean? Miko, thank you for the $10 over on PayPal. Gabrielle with a 5. Eric with a 10. I appreciate that. Marianne with a 7. Jasmine with a 30. And Bernice with a 30. Thank you, Jasmine and Bernice. You guys are awesome. Yo, show some love to Bernice down below in that chat, as well as Jasmine for the 31 down below in that chat. I really appreciate you guys so much for the love. 300 Bernice W's and 300 Jasmine W's. All right, everybody. There we are. There we are. Sensory food. Hell yeah. Anita with the 10 pounds over on YouTube Super Chat for the brains I had lost while debating that last guest, as well as Satcha. Thank you for the $20 over on PayPal. Telling myself to go get some dinner and relax. That 40-minute torture session was a lot. First and foremost, I appreciate you for the $20. And that's what I'm feeling. Shout. What should I do for dinner? Oh, Parker's live? Okay, we'll rate him. What should I do for dinner, everybody? Okay, I'm going to take in some Rex. I'm going to hop off real quick. Let's see here. Some pasta. Somebody in the chat says Chinese. Ooh, I could go for some Chinese. That sounds great. You know what? That's it. I'm going to go get some orange chicken. Okay, everybody. Apparently, Parker is live. So I'm going to go and hop off for the evening. Now, if you want to continue to watch some debates, feel free to head over to @ParkerGetAJob on TikTok or @ParkerGetAJob on YouTube. Apparently, Mr. Parker's live. Show him some love. Spam Dean Raid in his chats, everybody. And yeah, I love you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Once again, that is @ParkerGetAJob on TikTok. Have a good rest of y'all's evenings. Peace out. Much love. Take care. Goodbye.